The Etherworld section of the Arkhédiǎn was written and compiled by Mortalitus and narrated by Ob. What bold attempt is this? Pray, I must know. From whence you come, and whither I must go. Shall I, who a duenna, stoop or bow to such a pale-faced visage? Who art thou? Diaconus, a dialogue betwixt death and a duenna. Verse 2. Whether bent over massive tomes, deeply meditating, or feverishly dancing in a ritual trance, there is a school of magic that doesn't bother too much with the physical world of the living. Instead, seeks to understand and affect the ethereal world of spirit and ghost. These are the spiritists of Nave, and on their journey through the imperceivable, they attempt to find real substances of existence. The Ether. Parallel to the observable world, there exists other planes which are invisible to most men, with the Ether being by far the most commonly known. Spiritists know the Ether as a plane where spirits can exist in various immaterial forms without the need of a physical body. The Ether is not a separate dimension, however, as the vast majority of physical things exist simultaneously on both planes. In other words, a layman might say that there are two worlds, a material world and the spirit world. But to mages, particularly spiritists, the Ether is simply another layer in the fabric of reality, which can be observed, manipulated, and traversed with the right knowledge and tools. The Ether is home to otherwise unseeable forces. Mages of other schools may find it important to divide the Ether further into various subplanes, or consider the Ether to be one plane among many others. But to most spiritists, this differentiation doesn't matter much. In fact, it appears to be fairly common for old and weathered spiritists to not even bother distinguishing between the physical and immaterial worlds. It's not uncommon for the ordinary men to experience aspects of the Ether as well. Certain dream states or near-death experiences seem to break some of the conventional boundaries between the planes. Additionally, some spirits are able to transgress these boundaries and become partially or wholly visible, affect substantial things, or even manifest physically. These phenomena have been given many names, such as ghosts, spirits, phantoms, and so on, but none are very well understood by the general superstitious commoner. Throughout history, cultists, philosophers, and magicians have come up with several conflicting models and theories to describe Nave's multi-layered world, as well as the concept of spirit, but no one can be certain how it all fits together. The spiritist model, referenced further below, taught by most scholars at Claris Magica, first appeared in the ancient writings of the Sarducan Magia Pier Nosso Samuel. Most of the names in the model are not of Sarducan origin, however, and later, etymological transliteration studies have shown that they demonstrate a resemblance to ancient logograms of Peri origin. The general consensus is that an old Sarducan branch of Spiritism somehow grew from these Peri concepts among the Yequada, and later influenced Tendrimic schools of thought. The various contemporary sub-branches don't see eye to eye when it comes to interpreting the actual concepts, but the presiding nomenclature and jargon among scholars for describing its constituents is definitely of Yeselit, or the Yequada language origin. Some scholars have claimed to have studied the elusive Yeselite language to be able to come up with more precise and powerful evocations. The skeptics, on the other hand, say that the language is forbidden for outsiders. Those claims are indeed unverifiable. It's a simple means to come up with a more persuasive vocabulary for their treaties and theories. The parts whereof an entity consists. According to spiritists, there are several important aspects, or parts, which work together to constitute a living or semi-living entity. Studying the properties and links between these parts is essential for practicing spiritism. The following is officially accepted, though still debated, Tendrimic version of what constitutes a being, and was supposedly acquired directly from the Yequada sources prior to being translated into Tundrimic language from the Yeselit. Of whole parts. Figure 16. The structure of a living vessel. Next to the consideration of a being, or thing, as substance with regard to its accidents, and as subject with regards to its adjuncts, we consider it as a whole with regard to the part whereof it consists, as a man consists of its and Khat, and his of his cow, ba and ren, and his Khat of his head, trunk, and limbs, each which may be further subdivided. Pir nos Samuel, El Nazar Ayak, Elementa Philosophica, Chapter 2, Section 19. Khat, the vessel. The Khat is the body, the physical vessel that carries the metaphysical Ak. In general, spiritists do not concern themselves too much with the Khat. However, the Ak of most entities is so intertwined with the Khat that a separation of the two is lethal. Thus, for a spiritist to exit and re-enter the physical body, or reunite with the Ak and Khat of others, the properties of the Khat needs to be thoroughly understood. Sheut, the shadow or mold. The Khat of entities such as humanoids, animals, and plants is considered to be governed and constrained by which archetype and sub-archetypes they belong to. A human cannot be born with wings, because wings are not a part of their archetype. An individual instance of an archetype may still have unique properties, however, such as a disposition towards more muscle mass. That does not mean that this disposition will automatically produce an individual with more muscle mass, as it depends on the life of said individual. This mold, the combination of archetype and the individual frame, is regarded as the Sheut of an entity. Some spiritists believe that the Sheut defines the Ak. That said, a human Sheut will produce, or some say, gather, the components necessary to give rise to a human Ak, and that specific Ak, therefore, is of human nature. An example of an argument favoring this wing would be, as we know, the Ak of a Wyzant will still be the Ak of a Wyzant, even if transferred to a human Khat. The other wing, which includes believers in natural reincarnation, sees the Ak as more or less eternal, something that, in some way or another, is instilled via the Sheut into the Khat to give life, and thereby only constrained by the current Sheut it inhabits. Memories and consciousness might be lost or forgotten, for instance, on death. But the individual Ak will go on existing, and is a unique entity in itself. The following is an argument often proposed by this wing to determine that the Sheut and the Khat are only shells. I am what I am, although I cannot speak, even if I occupy the Khat of a Wyzant. However, both sides, of which are many variants, agree that the Sheut is indeed a real and important feature in nature for both physical and metaphysical purposes. The study of the Sheut overlap with several other philosophical fields such as biology and animism, and has given rise to the Sheut taxonomy, also known as the system of dawning, which classifies groups of living entities according to a hierarchical system based on archetypes and shared characteristics. The concept of sentience isn't usually a prerequisite when it comes to the Sheut. The Sheut is the mold, or archetype, for living entities, and that includes trees, anemones, or fungi, no matter their level of sentience. For classifying non-living entities like rocks, various systems have been developed. In the realm of metaphysics, many efforts have been made to distinguish between what is considered dead and living matter. However, these classifications are subjective and open to interpretation. Some non-living entities inhabit traits that can be seen as evolving, potentially making them suitable for classification in the Sheut taxonomy. Nevertheless, the academic community has generally adopted alternative taxonomical sorting methods, often discarding any Sheut-like traits, whether present or not. According to the original Sheut taxonomy, it specifically focuses on that which is capable of being alive, reproducing its dominant traits to new generations, and thus repeating the endless struggle. The Shivra in Hugar are renowned for their expertise in these matters, do not adhere to a Sheut-like taxonomy. They acknowledge the evolving properties of many materials and organize them according to various systems that sometimes reflect progressive traits. However, they do recognize two significant differences between organic and inorganic matter. Firstly, materials do not seem to undergo evolutionary pressure. Secondly, unlike branches in evolution, materials can often be combined, recombined, and distilled without the chronological history or formula, Sheut, of the constituents being a determining factor. At the same time, many Huagar and some Shira believe that the very bedrock is alive, even sentient, although, while doing so, they also recognize that the principles governing creatures and matter are very different. Ak, the sum of an entity's spiritual substances. Ak, which can be roughly translated to the layman's concept of soul, is the collective name, the sum of an entity's spiritual energies, of which the most important are Cow, Ba, and Ren. The Ak is often called a vessel or carrier, though what is most often referred to is the sum of its constituents, as it's unclear whether an Ak has any properties in itself, much like the concept of a body actually refers to the sum of its parts. Cow, the Lifeforce. According to spiritists, every living entity contains a life force, Cow, which is capable of interacting with and linking together both the physical and metaphysical world. It is the energy of Cow that binds the Ak to the Khat, and if this link is broken, the corporeal Khat will die, and the Ak will eventually disunite into its separate parts. Cow is in many ways similar to the energy mages referred to as mana. It comes from the Sadoan words wonder, awe, plus well, spring, or she, Huagar, or Kurite. Different or not, these energies can all be used for interacting with the fabric of the world, though spiritists claim that there are differences between how Cow and mana are accumulated, harnessed, and used, especially in the ether. Ren, the name. Ren is the name or names of living entities. Ren is a powerful part of a person's Ak, as whenever it is mentioned, read, or even thought of, it is theorized that it actually manifests the Ak in the world, strengthening it.
Oh, is this your castle? Obe? Castle Obe? Your name's Obe. Hey, is this your castle right here?
For spiritists who believe that the Ak is eternal, this also means that the greater number of places any name of an Ak is used, the greater possibilities it will survive, be read and spoken, ensuring that the Ak lives on and grows in power. Spiritists use Ren as an important tool for communicating and controlling Ak. Not knowing any of the Ren of an entity makes it almost impossible to exert any influence over its Ak or its parts. Ren is perhaps also the most debated aspect of Ak among spiritists. Some believe that Ak is created upon an entity's birth, and most often perishes when an entity dies, so therefore Ren is simply the name for instance humanoids are given at birth. On the opposite side, there are those who believe that the Ak is transferred between living entities at birth and death, who say that therefore there must be two Ren, one for the enduring Ak, and one for the current transitionary vessel, the Khat. As the two differ, the name of the Ak is called Ma'a Ren, or truthful name, which is not the same as the everyday name. To complicate matters further, spiritists who also study nominalism complain that this division is not enough, and that there is an onamai, or true name, for both the temporary Khat and the more permanent Ak. Ba, the memory and personality. For consciousness, intelligent beings, memories shape a large portion of their personality. The accumulated memories, personality, is also uniqueness, sometimes for inanimate objects, is called Ba. Most spiritists believe that the memories of a living entity are stored physically in the Khat during life. However, When a memory is being recalled and enters consciousness, it transcends the physical threshold and becomes a temporary part of the immaterial Akh. A common proof for this link between Khat and Ba is, for instance, when spiritists attempt to spirit travel, only to find themselves incapable of accessing their memories, except perhaps for the most recent ones. To summon all or most of one's memories into the Akh and still be able to keep focus at the task at hand, for instance, when spirit traveling, requires extreme training and mental exertion and skill. Etherian Encounters. When the Akh getteth outside of the Khat, it saith to itself, "Am I dead, or am I not dead?" It cannot determine. It seeth its relatives and connections, as it had not been used to seeing them before. It even heareth the wailings. The terrifying etheric illusions have not yet dawned, nor have the frightful apparitions or experiences caused by the aether yet to come. Spiritist collection of translated Kiri dialogues. Author unknown. When a consciousness or entity dies, its Akh it separates from its Khat, and, after some time, disperses into the Etherian energies. This is called Hauir. It dissolves or ascends. Some who believe in a reincarnating Akh say that the Hauir is a non-natural and destructive process, while others say that it is only after the Hauir some of the essence of the Akh will still regather and find a new vessel. Sometimes, however, the Akh does not fully disperse, maybe due to a strong cow, and this may result in a fragmented spirit called an meaning without vessel. Many spiritists believe that the Akh in can have other origins as well. A rather popular belief is that there exists a whole clade of spiritual entities which are not bound by corporal laws like physical entities are. Regardless, there are many types of and spiritists from various cultures have different names for them, as they are often borrowed from the originating language. Some are considered liminal, as they have enough energy to manifest in the world of the living, and sometimes affect it. Most of the time, are confused and disoriented, which is explained by spiritists as them not processing their full personality, and memory. An might disappear by itself after a while, but in the case of a particularly strong a spiritist may have to banish it, which is called Jose, or help reunite it with his to form a full Akh, called Kem. Especially powerful spiritists can guide the Akh back to its former Khat, another Khat, or even a certain mystical object, a ritual called Seth. Spiritual entities. As detailed above, the spirit, soul, or individual being of an entity is its Akh. Part of this is the being's consciousness or personality consisting of Ba and Ren, but also defined by its previous ties to its Khat and Sheut. Spiritists often interact with individual beings and their willpower. However, in the spiritual world, it is not uncommon to find other types of entities and energies that don't necessarily fit the Akh model of corporeal or recently deceased entities. Spiritual entities, for lack of a better name, usually, but not always, consist of cow in various forms. Most entities, no matter their plane of existence, contain cow. In turn, cow is a form of she, or mana. A necromancer most often uses cow to animate semi-living or organic matter, but there are different forms of cow, such as free-flowing, she, or dollops, in more or less aggregated shapes, like cow or in various aspects. These can be channeled into the subject. External cow provides the needed connections and energies for the organic subject, but the willpower of the necromancer, transmitted by using she, is necessary for the subject to perform instructions and functions. It would probably be possible for a powerful necromancer and spiritist to use an Akh in order to possess a corpse, giving it a will of its own. For instance, by Seth rituals. This, however, will result in a less control over the possessed body. Further, it is likely that a powerful necromancer can manifest both the necessary cow and she without having to resort to external cow to completely control an undead entity. Though, this would require an immense concentration and likely be extremely dangerous, as being the subject differs from just controlling it. Lastly, I'd like to give special thanks to Mortalitus, Magic Nerd, Lucario, Dank, and Windows Update. This presentation wouldn't exist without the help of these individuals. Thank you.